So today on Weaseljaw Digital, we're going to be looking at the TIE Bomber. This is one of the sturdier ships out there. It's a great capital ship destroyer for the Imperials. It does lack considerably in the anti-starfighter category. But we're going to take a little look here and see what we can do with this, what kind of options are available, and what kind of builds work really well for it. So first up, we'll look at the main weapon systems, the lasers. You always have, of course, your standard laser cannon, which isn't bad. All around, you can always kind of leave it on this if you're new to the game or don't want to spend your resources right away to get something better. This isn't a bad option. Next up is your guided rotary cannon. It drops the DPS way down. But it's a pretty nice weapon, and if you can keep people relatively close to your crosshair, this weapon will guide and do a fairly good job of actually hitting the target. So if you're not very good at keeping that reticle right on your target, this is a pretty good choice. For more experienced pilots, you do have the actual full power rotary cannon. Really good DPS, really quick firing. Has the same range of 1,000 meters. If you can keep it on target, this is an amazing weapon. And then you also have the ion cannon, which does a considerable amount of ion damage. 1,920 DPS. However, that is really only good against shields or for actually shutting down starfighters. It's not bad either way. But it limits your ability because once you get past their shields and once they're shut down, trying to actually destroy them with this cannon takes a lot of shots because the damage is greatly reduced against hull. Same against capital ships. It's a nice weapon to take down their shields, but once the shields are down, the weapon's kind of worthless. So we're going to be building this as a anti-capital ship combatant. While I do recommend on the Y-wing that the ion cannon can serve a purpose, I feel that is less the case here with the TIE Bomber. And I think the rotary cannon is a better all-around vehicle to do the damage that you need to do. The auxiliaries are a little interesting. There is, of course, the assault shield, which reduces damage by 90% for 3 seconds. But it is on a 20-second cooldown, so the number of times you'll get to use this more than once is kind of limited. And that is only in the front. So if someone is tailing you from behind, or you pass by the capital ship, they're now firing into your rear arc, and that shield's not going to do any good. Not that it would typically be active for very long, since it's only going to run for 3 seconds. Next up, you have the multi-lock missiles. These are actually pretty interesting missiles. They have medium homing capability. They do require a lock, so you cannot dumbfire these weapons. Damage is really nice and high, and you can lock onto 4 different targets. It does take 1 second per lock to make those locks, though. So this isn't something where you're going to be able to fire them off very rapidly, but against the AI squads, against a couple players, these are pretty effective. Against capital ships, less so because they do require the lock, and they do have that long lock-on time. We also have the beam cannon. Over 1,000 DPS, has a 1.5 second wind-up time before it actually fires, and it fires for 3 seconds. It then has a 10-second cooldown. The biggest drawback is the 90% maneuverability penalty. When you fire this thing, you will notice you really cannot steer your ship much at all. You're going to lose almost all your maneuverability. You're going to be stuck flying in almost a straight line. You can guide it a little bit to stay in tune with a ship that's kind of moving to the side, but it's not... I mean, if anyone gets behind you, you're dead. You can't move away. You're not going to be able to avoid missiles. You're not going to be able to do anything like that. It is a great weapon, though. With that 10-second cooldown, you'll be surprised actually how often you get to fire that. So that's actually going to be our first item we're going to throw into our left slot. The ion bombs are interesting. 4,000 damage, ion damage. You get to fire these off once per second. Launches downwards like normal bombs. Ammo capacity of 10. All very, very impressive. However, again, it's ion damage. So great at taking out shields, but once those shields are down, far less effective. Then there's the proton bombs. 1,100 damage, but are heavily negated by shields. So great choice, great weapon. We are going to be putting that in our other slot to start with. Next up is the Seeker Mines. 900 damage, which is huge. Strong homing, which is nice. 10-second lifespan, so they actually hang out there for a little bit. Cooldown of 9 seconds to use it. 6 ammo capacity. The arming range is 200 meters. So really this only is effective against someone that is coming up behind you, someone that's trailing you. You drop this mine, it's going to activate on them, seek on them, do a good chunk of damage to them. However, the number of times that's really useful is kind of slim to none. The Goliath missile is an interesting one. It has an area of effect when it explodes of 200 meters. The damage is 1,000. It's got medium homing capabilities. So it's like some of the other missiles with its medium homing, its 1,000 damage. The area of effect is kind of nice. You can actually take out multiple ships. Really good against AI squads. Players tend not to travel close enough to each other that you're going to hit more than one of them. So it's not maybe the most useful. An interesting side use case is against the actual capital ships. If you can find a bank of turrets that are really close together, you can do damage to multiples of those. But that's kind of an edge use. Last up is the Proton Torpedo. It does 4,000 damage. It's got a 2-second lock time, a long lock range. Starts at 1,500 meters, but you cannot fire it within 500 meters. It's got a 10-second cooldown, ammo capacity of 5. Again, this cannot be dumbfired. A lock is required, cannot be fired under the minimum range, and it is weak homing. It is not good against other starfighters. It is effective against capital ships. The one downside to this is that you do have to make long passes. You have to get further than 500 meters away from the enemy capital ship before you turn around, take 2 seconds to get into the lock, and then fire again. That it leaves you exposed for a long time because you're making a long, wide arc around the enemy ship. And that leaves you kind of vulnerable. What I like to prefer for the right slot is the proton bombs. High damage against hulls. Once you rip the shields down, these bombs are great. I'll use them on passes on capital ships. You fly at the capital ship using your rotary cannon, using your beam cannon. Once those are done, you're going to swoop right over the top of the ship and drop those bombs. Very effective maneuver. Lots of damage. For countermeasures, there's really only one good option, and that's going to be the Seeker warheads. The other options are chaff particles, which leave an area of effect of 200 meters right behind where you are when you launch them. That chaff lasts for 3 seconds. It's only good if that missile's coming directly from behind you. If it's coming from the sides, the top or the bottom, or from the front, it's pointless. The sensor jammer breaks all current locks and makes you immune from locks for 4 seconds. However, it has a 26-second cooldown, and it only has one use unless you unless you refill that somehow. So that leaves us with our Seeker warheads. Nice long range of 750 meters. It can actually target 2 different targets. Has a cooldown of 12 seconds, which isn't that bad. and has an ammo capacity of 4. So basically, when someone locks you with a missile, that missile gets into kind of mid-range, fire these off, and those little seeker warheads will go out and destroy that incoming missile. It works no matter what angle those missiles are coming from, even if those missiles are in front of you. So it's just a great all-around defensive component that you should always make use of. The hull. I almost always go with the dampener hull. It increases missile lock time. That means it takes the enemy units twice as long to lock their missiles on you, to fire at you. So that's actually a pretty useful feature. And most of the other hulls aren't that great. The TIE Bomber, however, has access to this reinforced hull, which gives you a very interesting potential. It increases your max health by 60%, while decreasing your acceleration and maneuverability considerably. But this is not a dogfighting ship. This TIE Bomber is not made to be really maneuverable. It's not made to accelerate real fast. You're making long bombing runs on capital ships. You don't need to be doing a lot of dodging. You're not trying to track enemy ships. And since the TIE Bomber has one of the largest base health pools in the game, 60% addition to that is huge. So, this ship has health of 3,500 by itself. You add 60% health to that. I said that wrong. This ship has 2,500 health. And once you add that extra 60%, that pushes you to 4,000 health. In comparison, the support ships only have 1,000 hull and 1,000 shields, or 2,000 health. So you very quickly end up with twice the health of even support ships. And that is pretty impressive. And since you don't have shields to keep you alive, the extra health is very, very nice. So this is kind of, you make the choice. What works best for you? Do you want the huge chunk of extra health? Or do you want the longer lock time? For ships that I'm going to be taking against capital ships, I'm not too worried about the lock-ons. I'm more worried about health in this case. When I'm doing it with the Y-Wing, I'm not so worried about health because I have a huge chunk of shields and I can throw my power to the shields to help absorb any of those incoming shots. You can stay alive for a long time, not along for a lifetime. But in the case of the TIE Bomber, you really need the extra health because you do not have the shields to lean on. For engines, I should go back. The hull, the other one is the Agile hull, which increases acceleration maneuverability but reduces health, which is not great. For engines, we have a couple choices, but I'm not a big fan of any of them. The unstable twin engines lowers your health to increase your speed and acceleration. You also blow up when you die, so you could do damage to other people, especially if the guy shooting you is very close. But I find that kind of hit and miss. The twin ion jet engine increases how quickly you gain boost, but your boosts do not last as long. So it gives you the ability to get lots of boosts, but they're much shorter boosts. Not a bad thing necessarily. Not my favorite. The twin slam engine increases your boost charge rate and allows a passive boost charge while decreasing your maximum speed. The trade-off here is that as long as you are kind of like balanced in your power distribution, you're going to keep building charge, your boost. And then you're going to be able to use it once in a while to help dodge enemy fighters, to help make quick turns to make another pass on the capital ships, things like that. I'm not a gigantic fan of it. If it would work when you have weapons fully boosted, it would be a little bit different. I'd be more into it. But it either doesn't work or the charge is so minimum at that point that it's really not worth your time. So I actually go with the twin ion engines, just the standard engines. If you really want to do something, I would go with the twin ion jet engines. It builds up boosts faster, so you get more charges of it quicker. That'd be about the only thing I could recommend there for engines. So that's our primary one. That's going to be for tearing apart the hull of capital ships. Now, I don't find that it's necessarily bad to have a anti-shield one. Making those early passes on the mid-range capital ships, and especially on the big flagships, having the ability to tear down those shields a little bit faster isn't a bad idea. For that, you might think the ion cannon would be the way to go, but I actually do not think so. I actually prefer the rotary cannon in this case. What we're going to do is we are going to leave on our beam cannon in the left slot. We're going to switch over to ion bombs in the right slot. We're going to keep our countermeasures as the seeker warheads. I would highly recommend the reinforced hull again, just to keep yourself alive. And again, we're just going to go with our standard engine. So when you first open up into a capital ship, this is the version I like to use, just to tear down those shields a little bit faster.
Very good then.
So we're going to go ahead and take this out for a quick practice flight. We're going to leave it on the easiest setting because we're just trying to demonstrate how this stuff works, not how effective it is in a real life situation. I should probably check, make sure I got the right ship. I do not. All right. So this ship is built for taking out capital ships. This version is built for tearing down the shields. So we're going to deploy a corvette. Switch over to our engine so we can speed up and catch up to him. Use a little boost to sneak up behind him. Now we're going to start getting shot at. So we need to start making ourselves a harder target. Boost up again. Alright. So when working with the Y-Wing, I tend to go full power to shields. It'll help recharge the shields. It'll boost them up so they have more shield potential. It's the way to go. With the TIE Bomber, I actually prefer going with weapon systems. So what you do is you charge up your rotary cannon and you unload into it. When you'd be running out of ammo, you go over and you just release those bombs. And as you see, it tears their shields apart. Then you're able to come around and open up with that rotary cannon and do damage straight to the hull, while throwing in that big charge cannon also. And as you can see with the health bar, you can just kind of tear these guys apart. Now again, this is at the easiest setting. Now I wish I could spawn the Nebulon Bees, but they don't allow that. So we'll just go for the capital ship. When traveling outside of combat, you're going to want to boost the engine power to full and start building up that boost charge. because you're going to want to be able to make a real quick assault on the ship. Uh-oh. They got me in a tractor beam. I can't get out. Come on. Man. M75's tractor beams are way more powerful than the Imperials. You can see with all those missiles coming in how effective the Seeker countermeasures are. But again, we're just going to fly over this guy. And we're just going to drop all of those ion bombs. Now we have extra because we're in the easiest mode here in practice, but you get the point. It does considerable amount of damage. Now I actually find this build better against the mid-range ships. Because when you're dealing with the actual flagship, you can sneak right underneath their shields and do damage directly to the components you want to damage. You don't have to worry about the shields as much. Now that's not to say it's useless. Your allies probably won't be ducking beneath the shields, so being able to actually destroy the shields for them will increase the overall amount of damage that your entire team can do. So it's not a bad idea to assault the shields. I want to switch ships. Now this is the one that's built more for just doing damage to the capital ship itself, not the shields. So we just have the regular bombs instead of the ion bombs. Again, those Seeker missiles are great. See, right there, we were just below the shields, so we were able to do damage to the hull without having to worry about the shields. And it's actually pretty easy to hit those shields on the ship to stay moving while doing it. And to sneak around in different places. The Star Destroyer is much harder to make like passes on the shield, because you don't get much actual attack time. But the MC-75, since those shields are right out there in those gill slots, it makes it pretty easy to be able to do the damage you need to do while skimming over the top of it. So the quickest way to actually take out the shields on this ship is to just do a nice slow pass over its side, get underneath the shields, and bomb the entire length of the ship when you get close to those shields. You'll do a lot of damage to their shield generators, you'll do a lot of damage to their hull. It's actually quite effective. Now, for this build, I like to go with the Seeker Mine. Other enemies are going to be more maneuverable than you. They're going to be able to get up behind you. You're going to need to be able to deal with that. For offense, we're going with the multi-lock missiles, and we're going to stick with our rotary cannons. You could go ion cannons and then hit them with your multi-lock missiles, but the cooldowns on these missiles can be so long that that's really not the best option. You don't have an ion missile option, so that really kind of limits you. We're going to stick with our Seeker warheads. Now, in this case, while the extra health would be handy, the loss of acceleration and maneuverability really hurts us in the dogfight. So in that case, I'm actually going to go back here to the dampener hull. And then again, engines, if you want, you could try the SLAM engine or the twin ion jet engine. Again, I'm just going to leave it. So it's one less thing I got to worry about. Oh man, should I be slamming it? Should I be trying to do something else? Nope, don't have to worry about it. So let's go ahead and we will launch that. So you can already feel that things are a little bit faster. So we got some Y-wings coming up. And you gotta just wait to get those locks. Fire off all those missiles. This actually makes a really nice anti-bomber starfighter, because they're going to be slower, less maneuverable. You're also going to be pretty good at taking out support ships. When facing X-wings and Y-wings, you're going to be kind of hurting. They're going to likely be more maneuverable than you. They're likely going to be able to lock onto you, dodge your shots, those kind of things. But against Y-wings and support ships, you're going to be brutal. And as long as you can get the gun warmed up in time, you're going to be pretty effective against everything else. With those missiles, we'll just launch a couple of X-wings here. With those missiles, you can actually do a considerable amount of damage. Boom, boom, boom. Fired off 4.
Rebel following me.
Nah. Those didn't work well. They actually shot them all down, surprisingly. It has a little tone to let you know when you're in lock range.
Enemy down.
You can see that round worked much better. 750 damage per missile is very considerable. And as you can see, it's a little bit harder to get lined up on these X-wings. But once you do, you can make quick work of them. And last but not least, we'll get some more guys in here so we can demonstrate our seeker mines.
I'm under assault. Rebel fighter locking on.
So we got a seeker mine out there. But as you see, no one flew close enough to it, really. So it didn't do us any good.
Scratch one.
That's why, except for a serious anti-starfighter build, I don't like to use it very often. It really works best, and
I've got a tail.
the computer doesn't do this well. It really works best when someone is tailing you.
They've opened fire.
And the other time it'll work is when they're coming straight at you. Oh, there's one. 900 damage is a lot. So that's the Imperial Bomber. Two really solid bombing builds. The one I use the most is, of course, the one that's just targeting the hull. I will use the Shield Stripper once in a while. And then the Anti-Starfighter build is just a nice one to keep the enemy guessing. They're going to see your bomber, they're going to expect that you're built for anti-capital ship duty, and when they come into close range to attack you, you'll be able to surprise them with an array of missiles, with your mines, with your rotary cannon, and do a considerable amount of damage while having the health to last a long time. So hopefully you gain some insight on the bomber, and it'll help you in your pursuit of Imperial conquest. We'll see you next time. Don't forget to like and subscribe.